I'd like to call to order the Parks Board meeting of Monday, December 17th to order. We have a Pledge of Allegiance. Young Mr. Pike here will lead that.
Oh, thanks. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Pike. Do we have any citizens' comments, sir?
No, sir. There's no comments.
Thank you very much. I'll accept approval of the last meeting. Mr. Pike was first, Mr. White is second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, don't say a word. That's fine. That went real well, I think. Okay, under old business, volunteer part. Is that Arrowhead? I guess it is. Volunteer.
Presentation.
Oh, we have a presentation. Am I winning something or? Oh, good.
We all, as you know, Ms. Bourget served on the Parks Board for what we think is upwards of close to 16 years.
I don't think,
Close to it?
16 or 12.
Since Mayor Fuquay's administration, and she has chosen to let some other people have a chance at it, and her dedication and pride that she took in her job here is greatly appreciated by me. Before I was sitting up there, I know that every other person up there appreciates it. And we have a plaque for you tonight that says Ms. Paula Bourget in grateful recognition of thank you for your many years of service to the Hendersonville Parks Board, our park system, and to the entire city of Hendersonville. And we have a sweatshirt, lovely sweatshirt for you as well.
Thank you.
And we want to thank you for all you've done. If you want to say anything, you're more than welcome.
No,
Speech.
I was glad to serve. It was very nice to serve, and I appreciate everybody up there. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Paula, I was always going to start with you in the round, and you just blew it. That's all right. Thank you so much for what you did. Thank you very much. Under old business, volunteer park phase 2 concession building, Mr. Gilly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Still under construction. We have issues right now with the weather and getting paving and concrete work done. The building itself is almost complete and built out. If any of you all want to take a tour in there and meet you over there one day, and we can go in there. But it's a beautiful building. Everybody thinks we have a bank going in out there on Drakes Creek Road, but the letters are up on the front, and it's going to be a great project. We have a deadline of next May for total completion. So if something happens with the weather and asphalt can't go in, we do have until the springtime to get that done. Hopefully, though, with the weather we're having this week, we can see a lot of progress done on that.
Very nice. Questions? Thank you, Mr. Gilly. Mary's Magical Place Playground. By the way, that thing looks spectacular up close and from the road and everything. I mean, we all take pictures. That's all there is to it. Just to update that the Sumner County chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution gave the Mary's Magical Place Committee their 2018 Community Service Award, which is kind of a big deal. It will go on. They have a chance to be honored nationally at this point, which I think we could see more of that coming from other places going forward. Just to give an idea, over Thanksgiving, there was 6 states and 10 Tennessee counties of different plates in the parking lot on Thanksgiving Day. So it's more than we ever all would have imagined, and more. And more.
Yeah. And we still have some finishing touches, things that nobody would ever know about, or just some fencing issues and different things, but certainly is open and being used every day from sun up to sundown.
Sorry. Don't say anything about my granddaughter. I'll be fighting. Sorry.
That's the only update I had on that.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you, Mr. Gilly. Beatty Farm property update. It's always Mr. Gilly.
Sorry. I'm trying to spread it around, though, coming up here.
You're doing good.
The Beatty Farm community meetings have concluded. The survey for the community is been closed. I think over 600 people took the survey that will help guide us in making the master plan. We will have another couple of meetings within city staff and with members of the Friends of Indian Lake to try to get the master plan going and start getting grant applications. A timeline for doing things, I wouldn't even want to dare get into that at this point. You know, it takes a long time around here to do anything, but the community outreach portion of it is complete at this time.
Thank you, sir. Question? Hush. It's supposed to be done. Any questions? Thank you. Durham Farms rugby field update, Mr. Gilly.
Yes, sir. As you all gave your blessing for the group to build 2 rugby fields, that also last week was passed unanimously by the Public Works Committee. So that was 3 aldermen that agreed as well. It will go before the full board of mayor and aldermen the 2nd week of January. They also did complete the FEMA testing, which they had to do out there for a rise study to make sure if anything that they were planning on building wasn't going to create any more flooding. That it's already in the floodway, but couldn't create any more than it was. But that came back in good shape. They've gone through a lot of hoops, certainly. So hopefully it'll work out for the best for everybody.
Very nice. Thank you, sir. Questions? Beatty Farm event fees. Mr. Long. Very nice.
See, spread it around.
There's a handout in front of you guys. From, I guess the last time we met, we talked about the fee being $1,000. And since that meeting, we as a staff researched some other cities. There's not a lot of cities that rent out entire park land, but there's 3 cities right there, Nashville, Memphis, and Chattanooga, who do rent out the park land as a whole piece of property. And as a staff, we discussed it, and we felt that the $1,000 rental for a day would be very comparable to what other cities are doing. So I don't know if you guys want to talk about it some more, or keep the fee as what was set in the last meeting.
So, if I may, just to add on to that, what Dallas said our staff did, he did the research on that, but which I appreciate. I think we'll come eventually to a point where sections of the park could probably be segmented off, but for what we have available now, for people that are going to want to use it, there's no way to really determine which part. It's just basically got to be all or nothing if you want to have an event right there. That's kind of what we determined, I guess.
Jimmy, do you have questions?
I'm not really a question, just a statement. We made a motion, or I did, and we approved the motion for a temporary fee for $1,000 so we could have this event, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm going to make a motion that we make that a permanent $1,000 rental fee, not temporary just for that one event, but a permanent fee, rental fee for $1,000 for the Beatty property for any use. Would that be?
I think that's appropriate.
I have a motion. Second, Mr. Pike. Discussion now. But have we had anybody else other than those people ask about the whole property?
But before this event came, we had several contact. Basically, when the weather was better, we had a lot of people wanting to have weddings. They thought maybe they could use the barn, but some people just wanted to have weddings on the property and have the scenery as a backdrop. We've had requests for different things, but nothing concrete like the great inflatable race folks. But the weddings, yes, we did have several people ask about weddings. And at that time, we told them we were not able to do anything on the property.
Okay.
I could see things coming. I mean, this is not something we're going to necessarily go out and publicize, hey, we're open for business here, but to have a mechanism in place when somebody does ask, I think is good.
All right, sir. Any more discussion? Yes,
I have a question about, just in general, do we need to at least talk about
question.
restrictions or considerations to what would and would not come through there if somebody just wanted to to get the entire property for a concert at 7 o'clock one night. I mean, that's a spot that would accommodate something like that.
Sure.
I don't know how well received something like that would be.
I think that would have to still come before the Parks Board for the event approval. So it's the same process as a tournament or anything else. It would have to come before here, and I think if there were additional fees on our end that were incurred, I think at that time we could tell people they have to pay for certain aspects, security, traffic, whatever that may be.
Okay, so,
I think Nathan brought up a valid point.
so should I amend the motion to say it's $1,000 rental fee, and anything that wants, or anyone or anybody that wants to rent it needs to come to the Parks Board for approval?
Sure.
You want to change
That's,
your
yeah, I'm
motion to
changing
that?
mine to that,
Okay.
to that.
And I've got a second by Mr. Pike. Any more discussion on that? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? That take care of that?
I think so.
Under new business, lightning detection. Mr. Gilly?
In your packet is several documents. You got a couple of letters of recommendation. You've got kind of spec sheets and things that the lightning detection service that we've kind of looked at provide. Obviously, we had a lightning strike in the park that we've talked about previously at previous meetings. And also, we have a situation where our staff and members of the community that use the park, when I first started, asked us to look at ways to better improve our communication system when at nighttime when our staff's not at the park, but weather occurs. We have had situations where, you know, maybe baseball keeps playing and soccer is canceled for the night, or soccer keeps playing and baseball leaves. So, and this equipment will allow us to have one signal that clears the park, clears the fields, and then another signal when it is cleared to play. Again, when the conditions are not such that lightning should strike. This is not a cure-all, be-all, end-all. It's, you know, everything is, nobody's perfect. But this is a big step in the direction of safety that, and everybody being on the same page as far as now we don't, you know, an umpire may or may not have seen it, or a parent saw it, but the umpires didn't, or just kind of takes all that out of play. What has happened is there's you know, we haven't gotten bids or anything yet. This is something that we'll have to go out to bid, but we know what the approximate cost of it is. And we've gotten commitments from the Civitan Club and both soccer clubs to help fund not the detection devices at Volunteer and Veterans Park. And it is our intention to, out of our budget, to fund the one at Drakes Creek Park, which will have a system. The hub will be in the maintenance building, and then there will be two relays, one at either football or tennis that can be heard at Memorial Park or at football. But if we have to put it at Memorial Park for tennis and football to hear it, we will. If you can hear it from Memorial Park at tennis, we will do that. And then there will be another relay in the soccer complex at Drakes Creek as well. That one obviously is much more expensive than the individual ones that will be at Volunteer and Veterans. But because of their commitment, it says that they will give the money when and if we get the proper funding lined up from the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. To be perfectly honest, what we've done, what we did with the volunteer park last month was move some money from the Wi-Fi in the park project over to that, and I believe my intentions will be to move some of that, more of that Wi-Fi in the park project money to cover lightning detection. Plus, I will ask for a little additional amount, trying to not hurt the general fund of the city, basically. At this time, I feel like these two things are a priority over Wi-Fi in the park project, because that money has been sitting there with nothing done for 2 years. combine that with the very likely addition of a cell tower in the park also too, which will bring in revenue to allow us to continue to fund equipment for Wi-Fi in the park. It's a long explanation to say my request from you all would be just your approval for our staff to move forward to purchase lightning detection equipment for the park. You can't approve funds, and you guys can't approve how the mayor and aldermen are going to handle it, but you can give your blessing, I guess, towards our staff to continue to research this and move forward with it.
Mr. Flake?
So Andy, me scanning through this real quick, I guess what you're saying is this one piece of equipment along with those two relays would cover that whole big area right there.
Correct, at Drake's Creek Park.
And then later on or whenever, you're talking about getting another piece of equipment for those other two parks, one piece of equipment that will, one park, one
At
for
the same
other.
time, we're going
At the same time, but it'll be one for each park, a different piece of equipment. Okay.
Correct. You could not hear a relay. The relay wouldn't go all the way from
Yeah.
maintenance building all the way to veterans. It needed its own
Yeah.
system.
I thought that's what it was. I just wanted
That's
to
correct.
clarify that. So.
And we felt like the best way to do it would be to ask the clubs that use those facilities the most to help with those. Basically, just looking online at the pricing, this would be an estimate, rough estimate, but the
Right.
system for Drake's Creek would be about 23,000, and the one at single ones would be about 8,500 apiece, depending on who bids on it, obviously. But there's not that many people that will sell this. This company actually happens to be based in Brentwood, and they do. There's other parks in Tennessee that have them, and PGA Tour uses it. So
I understand that you're asking for our blessing to move forward with the study and everything.
I felt like it was important that you all do that, obviously, because my plan would be to move money from the Wi-Fi project. I wanted everybody to understand that as well. I just think, I don't know, our staff could speak for themselves, but I don't want to speak for them all the time, but safety is something we've really concentrated on since August with some upgrades, and this is something that I just keep going back. If that had been a Saturday morning, we would have had a bad situation.
Okay. I'll enter, Mr. Frank, you want to make a motion, sir?
Yeah, I've got a comment, but
I'm sorry.
I'll
Go ahead,
save it.
I'm
I'll
sorry.
save it for discussion. So, I make a motion that we bless the park staff to move forward with procuring these systems.
Okay, got a first and got a second from Mr. Bennett. Discussion?
What I say is probably not going to be real popular publicly, but I think if it digests, you mentioned the approximate cost of, let's just say Drake's Creek, $23,000. If for one calendar year we had a participant impact of $1, we could pay that with 2 or 3 softball tournaments or 2 or 3 soccer tournaments. And I know that the Civitan and the soccer clubs have already given their support financially, and I don't want to double dip that same group. And I'm not sure the logistics of how to levy such a thing, but for the payoff for safety for every single individual that uses those parks, whether they're walking their dog or whether they're working concessions or they're a vendor that's come through there, or for whatever the city of Hendersonville, even the people that live on the other side of the railroad tracks in those particular subdivisions over there. I appreciate your fiscal responsibility and sharing vocally that money is kind of sitting, not being used right now, and to move a little bit. I think our parks in our city is ready to have all of that, and I'm not sure, like I said, how to do that. That's not where my brain goes, but I believe that we approve so many events that use our parks that would benefit from that. If there is a way that when these folks come to petition to use the facility for a fee, and they say that we're going to bring 80 teams, they're going to have a $500,000 impact in the fee. Surely there's a way for 1 year to assess another 150, another $500 on top of an event that size to help procure this quickly and for their own benefit.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Head, do you have a comment, sir?
As much as I'm in the park, and as many times as I've seen field 6 playing and field 8 not playing, okay, because of lightning in a building blocking somebody's visibility, it's much needed. And even having the separate systems in the other park is much needed, even though they're a couple of miles apart, depending on which way the weather comes. It could be you couldn't be playing at Drake's Creek, but because it's a mile difference, you could still be playing at Vets. And I also think Mr. Franks brings up a great idea of some way to try to get the funding without disturbing other things, and that would be something that the city would have to take into consideration. And I know a lot of things go on with the fees, but you could probably pay for all of it if you put $1 fee on everything that happened for 1 year, to be honest. As much as we've got booked now in the park, and it's just every day somebody else is knocking on the door of the park wanting to host a tournament. So if that's feasible, that'd be great, but I think we definitely should, recommend this highly to the mayor and board of aldermen. It's just a matter of time before somebody has an accident, and let me tell you what, if somebody would be liable for it somewhere down there, and you think $23,000 is a lot of money, wait till somebody gets struck by lightning in the park because somebody didn't do something.
Had y'all thought about Mr. Frank's idea about doing that? Have you brought it into your discussion at all?
I will tell you from sitting up here with being one of the aldermen how that, I'll just kind of give you an example of how that is viewed. When we talked about the Wi-Fi in the park project, and we talked about the cell tower coming in and revenue that it was raised, I kind of made a motion that any revenue from the cell tower contract be directed at Wi-Fi. See where I'm coming from?
Mm.
And that was shot down because they said if we did that, then codes fees would have to go to the codes department. Fire burning permits would have to go to the fire department. That being said, if we did that, that's kind of why we have groups. The way to do it would be to have groups that come in and use the park write a check to the clubs. Because if they wrote a check back to the city, it would go in the general fund. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So for us to set a fee and say if you come into the park, you're going to have to pay an extra $500 for 1 year, and it's going to go towards this.
Mm-hmm.
We could do that, and it would give justification for them to spend. It would be tricky, and it would probably get some pushback. I don't know how. I'm willing to look at it for sure and try to figure out something because it's a fair. We just passed a stormwater utilities. Every house in Hendersonville is now paying $72 a year more than they were a year ago, and it's going to drainage problems. And there hasn't been hardly anybody bat an eye at it. Not that everybody even noticed that it was on their tax bill, but it's an important. That's very important too. You know what I'm saying? I don't know the answer exactly, but I will say when I brought this to Public Works and when it was talked about at the BOMA meeting, I made very clear that I expected Wi-Fi in the park project to be funded again in next year's budget. So maybe the way to do that is for us, when I get ready to do my budget, which you all are supposed to approve before I take it anywhere, FYI, maybe the way to do that is for us to pass something that adamantly recommends that. I don't know. I don't.
I see. I have been remiss in not pointing out that we have a new liaison to the Parks Board, Mr. Bolt, down there. I just wondered if you had anything that you would like to add to that, sir.
Andy's probably got more experience at that than I do, but as you know, the board's pretty adamant about safety, public safety, fire, police, so I imagine they'd be relatively supportive with or without any additional funding. So Andy's got a better handle on that than I would, but I think it'll be fine.
I see. By the way, welcome to the board, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right, I'm an old guy. I forgot we had a say. Go ahead.
I have a question about the, it looks to me like this system has the capabilities of pushing out notifications as well as just a siren going off. And that seems to be tied into the Wi-Fi cell coverage in the park.
It does have.
That's non-existent at times, where it depends on
Correct.
where you stand and which direction you've got and which leg you've got in the air, as to whether you even get any service or not. I definitely think this is needed, and I've been in the same situation with Mr. Head, where we've actually been calling games and we've gotten kids off the fields, and I look and somebody else is playing. So I think this is something that's long overdue. And I think the Wi-Fi / cell coverage is a part of that this could be, that could rely on this as well.
I will say that this works. Two things. First thing, this system as itself does work with or without cell or Wi-Fi. It's kind of like its own little walkie-talkie. But, correct, there is the capability to use your phone to look at what the current conditions are and be notified of things. That can only take place, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, can only take place if you're connected to a Wi-Fi or a computer, which at volunteer and veterans, we don't really have that set up either yet. So yes, it all goes together at some point, and it's all overdue, honestly. But
My biggest concern is what Jimmy said. It would only take one. That's all it would take.
and I will say too, putting this in does not absolve any. I mean, you could still be taken to court, but it sure, when you sit in court, you could safely say that you and your city have done everything possible to prevent it.
You're fairly certain you'd win that, I think.
Well, I don't want to say that.
Oh, sure we will. We'll get Pike to talk to him. That'll work fine. Any more discussion? I have a motion and a second. No more discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? You're on your way, young man.
Thank you.
All right, new business, shelter fee proposal. Mr. Long.
Okay, past couple months, I came up here and I told you about our plan of going to an online shelter rental process. And we're about there. We're about ready to roll that out January 2nd. The only problem with our current fee setup is we cannot do the 4-hour blocks anymore with the online system. The computer cannot do that. So with that being said, in the packet here, I've researched some of our neighboring cities and looked at their shelter rental fee setup, and we're proposing that we change our fees to hourly rentals, $10 for residents, $15 for non-residents, and then for our large shelter number 8, it would be $20 for residents and $30 for non-residents.
When was the last time, do you know the last time the fees were changed at all?
It's way before me.
And me, I'm afraid. You're right there. All right.
I think it's safe to say it's been a long time. And I think this puts us in line with the surrounding cities as well from the research that the staff has done.
Just for the people that are, what is the fee now?
It's 4-hour blocks for $25 for 4-hour blocks.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then the big one is?
That's $150.
Okay.
For the, no, I'm sorry. Yeah. It's $150.
I would say it's about time to do something on it. if it's older than I am, my God, that's no telling. Yes, sir, Mr. Bruce?
From what I remember on the old shelter fees, this was many, many years ago, it went like from $15 to $25. And that was quite a few years ago, and everybody thought that was a huge jump. Many, many years ago, we went from like 15 to 25.
This seems quite reasonable to me. Yes, sir.
Large shelter is 4 hours for 150 currently.
No, I'm sorry. It's 150 all day for the large shelter.
Okay, 150 for all day. Okay, because I was about to say
It-
the math's not working out.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's 150 all day.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And so your online that we're looking at right now, the only capability that you have is just for the all-day rental. Is that correct?
For the online, we'll be able to do hourly rentals, or you can do it all day, but we won't be able to
Can't do the 4
We can't do the 4-hour blocks. This will allow the citizens to basically pick what their needs are. Doing a 4-hour, we can do a 4-hour block, but we'd have to hand pick those times. So, I mean, if you're needing something from 10 to 3, then you're going to be paying double, basically, you'd have to block off 2 blocks. But the way we do it now is you can come into our office and pay, and you can pick the 4-hour times that you want. The 4-hour block online, it does not allow you to do that, to pick the exact 4 hours you need.
But now it will if we do this.
But if we go to hourly rates, you can pick if you only need 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours, whatever it is you actually need, you can block off with the new online rental, yeah.
All right, thank you, Dallas.
Any more, Ms. Ted?
So, payment online?
Yes, and that's the other thing with this, we'll be able to take credit cards now. So currently, we can only do cash or check in the office. With this new setup, you can either come into our office, pay cash, check, or credit card, or you can do it all online, just like our
So-
sports registrations.
So if they pay online, they'll pay a charge for using a credit card online, so you still get your full amount.
That's correct, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I might, it's going to be a little change for some people that have been booking shelters their entire life, to be online. So for everybody that's watching on TV, if you have questions and you're expecting to get a shelter on a certain date for next year, you probably need to communicate those questions as quickly as possible. We don't want to disappoint people, but there's no way we can hold on January 2nd. We can't hold a shelter for somebody if they call us on the phone, and then by the time they get to City Hall, somebody's booked it online. It's going to have to be either in person or online.
That's correct.
I see.
And I will say, once this is approved, if it is approved, we will roll out a press release this week. We'll put it in the papers, we'll put it on social media, we'll upload it on the city main website and the parks website. We're going to try to get the information out as much as possible prior to January 2nd, so everyone can try to learn as much about it prior to the 2nd.
All right.
One more thing.
Oh, yeah, one more thing.
Yes, sir.
Another change that will go into effect with this is you can rent 360 days out from the current date. So the way it's set up currently is you cannot start renting for the next year until January 1 of that year. The online system cannot handle that. We cannot block it off to January 1st each year. So once this date hits, it opens up for that date the following year immediately.
And you got to be there. All right, then.
Yeah.
I might go and book one just to make sure I live another year. Mr. White, do you have a question?
So the booking in a shelter all day is really going to be, if I wanted to book a shelter all day, my determination of what I call all day. And I pick the 7, 8, or 9 hours that I want to book that thing and have access to it.
That's correct.
And that's how it's going to get booked.
That's correct.
Do you have shelter reservations for 2019 right now?
No, they don't open with our current policy. They will not open until January 1.
Okay, so we don't have to deal with anything.
Right.
When this takes effect, this will cover 2019 and we're good to go. We don't have to worry about
That's right. yeah.
anything.
And that's why we have been pushing to get this going January 2nd.
I'll entertain a motion to okay.
Mr. Bruce.
Oh,
One
yes,
note-
sir. Sorry, sir.
Excuse me. One note there about the special events. Usually shelter aid is included in a fishing tournament, so we wouldn't be actually charging them for that shelter. That's included in the fee for the fishing tournament. Just a heads up on that.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion. Mr. White, Mr. Head, second. Any more discussion on it? Everybody pretty happy with that? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Yeah, I think that's pretty neat if it's that old. We had to do something. All right, sir. National Fitness Council Outdoor Fitness Court, Mr. Gilly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think most of y'all either looked at the link that I sent or in your packet information about this. This is something that actually started in the 70s on college campuses. And you may have seen, we have something similar here over by the library, but mostly you would have seen it in places near beaches and things like that. But what's happened is the National Fitness Council has brought back these outdoor courts, and they're installing 200 throughout the country. There is not another one lined up currently to go in Tennessee. What it is the surface would be like the inline hockey surface, that type of material, and then you got 7 different stations that allow people to do full body weight workouts outdoors. The intent of the National Fitness Council is to put it in places where it's an active park. They like for it to be at the beginning or the end of a trailhead, which the location we're looking at is at Veterans Park. The reason why is because of the visibility, obviously coming off the bypass there. It's a very active park, and it's at the end of a trailhead. The way it works is they give you a grant for $30,000. It's a $120,000 project. The National Fitness Council gives you a grant for $30,000. They ask that the cities have a buy-in of $45,000, and then the National Fitness Council helps you, if needed, go get sponsors or grants for the remaining $45,000. Which, if approved by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, then for what I have to do is take this. Anytime we apply for a grant, I'm supposed to take it to a committee and to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to let them know I'm applying for a grant. That is a cover for us in case it requires funding on the back end from them, basically. But in this case, they want as many people and committees and boards to approve it. I'm talking about the National Fitness Council, so that they know there is buy-in from the decision makers in the city. It could be that I go out and get more than $45,000 extra that helps pay for part of the city's part, but the intent is for the city to have a buy-in. That's what the National Fitness Council requests. This was passed by Public Works and the Finance last week. They just happened to meet before you all did, and they unanimously voted for me to go forward and apply for the grant. And I guess for you guys, I would be asking for your recommendation for me to apply for this grant as well from the Parks Board.
Mr. White.
Mm-hmm.
2 things just about the surface.
Mm-hmm.
You know, A1, are we going to be in part building this, or are they going to come out and help build it for us? And how hard is it going to be to maintain? Because I know some of the issues we've had with hockey over the years. How hard is it going to be to maintain it for us?
It won't be near as hard to maintain because it won't be something where we got it around. It'll be squared off. We will install it. They will help in any way possible, but I have faith in our guys to be able to. This is pretty simple install.
Yeah. Okay. Have you determined a place where you said trailer?
To me, the best place over there is right by the skate park. We're getting kind of crowded over there, obviously.
I know, yeah.
But there's definitely a place there to put that where it's visible. Part of the people that sponsor these things or help raise the extra money, places like Gold's Gym and Planet Fitness, they partner with them sometimes so that their instructors will actually come and lead classes on the site for people, which I think is kind of neat. I think it's my intention is to try to find as many things that will put us on a map that other cities are not doing and providing for people. And I think this is one of them.
Any other discussion?
I will say one more thing, because this is on TV, I want everybody to know. If for some reason that we don't get the other 45,000 through grants or sponsorships, it's a non-binding grant. So the city is not responsible for that 45,000 if we don't raise the other by the next budget year. So got till July 1 to figure it out.
We'll make your motion.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and give Andy the blessing to go ahead with this and go forward and try to get the grants and secure the grants and put it in place.
Very nice. We got a second? Mr. Bennett, any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And I can lift weights on this?
You can lift your body weight.
Hey, I'm pretty ripped under this jacket, man. I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I would embarrass somebody if I took my shirt off, I'll guarantee you. All righty, under staff reports, I see Ms. Hamlin. Does anybody have Ms. Hamlin's? Yes, sir, Ms. Long.
Yes, this past month, we had 140 registered for our Lunch with Santa. That was on the first Saturday of December, and we had 2 sessions this year, so we changed things up a little bit. And then we also, this past week, we had a special needs Cookies with Santa, and that was last week here in this room, and I heard that was a really special night for the kids and for Santa, so.
Ms. Hamlin, I don't know what she makes, but she deserves more money, I'll guarantee you. 'Cause, if you've ever seen her, if you've ever watched her at a function before, I've never seen anybody that cared any more for people, but especially kids. I was at the breakfast with Santa, and she was just all over the place hugging on kids, and so we're lucky to have her, I can tell you that. Any questions?
One more thing, she is still taking registrations for the Raptors basketball, and she'll be taking those through January 3rd. You can do that in our office or online.
Thank you, sir. All righty. Special events program, Ms. Wise. Still like that name.
I know I mentioned this at our last meeting, but we still are accepting nominations for our Wall of Fame ceremony, and we now officially have a nomination form. It can be found on our website. I do have copies here if you guys want to fill one out. We did have our annual holiday events this year in the parks, the tree lighting, which was a big hit, the parade, and the boat parade. They all had a great turnout. I will be working on January's newsletter, so that should be coming out hopefully the end of next month. And then finally, the Facebook promotion is going on this month for December. The winner gets Wendy's for a year, and we have had some participation on our Facebook page, so somebody is going to win those gift cards. So that's all that I have.
Nice. Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Wise. Maintenance Supervisor, Mr. Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've got all of our fertilizer put down on all of our sports fields. That was 3,000 pounds of fertilizer. We've been working on our winter list items, and I jotted a few down just to kind of let you know some of the things we do in the winter. We painted the benches at tennis. We cleaned and painted the grills at all the shelters. We've created a gravel pad at back soccer to help store the soccer goals in the off season. We've had trouble in the past where they sit on the parking lot and it's just in the way back there. Putting up new backstop nets on baseball, softball fields, painting all the parking spaces in all the parks and the parking lots. Just stuff like that. Of course, that's just a small portion. I think we're up to like 3 sheets now of winter list stuff. So guys stay busy and do a good job of getting caught up, when you ain't got time to do it in the summer. Here in the next few weeks, we'll be signing up a few of our guys for some training this winter. And that training will include some irrigation repair and certified playground inspection, which that one's a big one because I think people kind of forget, but we have 12 playgrounds we take care of in the park system, so just something we need to stay on top of.
Question? Thank you, Mr. Russell. Parks Manager, Mr. Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. High school basketball is ongoing. We've had a really good season where we played this week, and then we'll take a break till after the new year, and then we'll play another week, and then the tournament starts up for those guys. So we have 3 divisions we have 2 divisions for high school open and one high school rec division. We also got the men's open league that's still ongoing. They're about halfway through their season, and they'll finish up in March. Volleyball season is about to kick off. We're in the process of working on their schedules right now, and then games will begin January 13th, and they play on Sunday nights. As far as outdoor sports, pretty much everyone's done now at this point. Tennessee United has a couple of teams that have qualified for some tournaments come the new year, so they may have a few practices once come January, February, and then our football league, they'll be sending a team to the NFL flag tournament again in January. They went there last year, so they'll practice some in the coming weeks. But other than that, everything's pretty much done outside.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Question? Thank you, sir. Assistant Director, Mr. Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Youth Basketball League is going well. We've been going for about 7 weeks of practice and 3 weekends of games. I believe Mr. Pike is doing fine as an assistant coach, keeping it under control. We do appreciate that over at HCA over there. We have met with Beach and Hendersonville softball and looking at some field improvements for those guys and what they're interested in. We've also trying to get our schedule set for the next season baseball and softball tournaments in general. So come the middle of February, it's going to get real busy. So we are actually starting to look at some of those dates and set some times and fields for those. The special needs deal, appreciate Civitan, excuse me, Civitan pitching in and helping financially with those groups. Yep. So thank you, sir.
Did I hear any report on kickball by any chance?
I think some off-season training are going on. So if you want to get involved in that, I'm sure they'll be glad to have you.
Well, with Mr. Frank and Mr. Bolt out there and Mr. Bennett coming on, we will rearrange the challenge. And winner take all, and I don't know what all is, but that's all right.
Hey, I heard an indoor league was getting started.
Man,
Yeah.
I've even heard some people want an indoor dodgeball league, is what I've heard. So
Oh, no,
really,
I ain't playing dodgeball.
Playing
No, it is
dodgeball,
fun.
yeah.
I learned that in elementary school. I ain't playing that. No, sir. Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Parks Director, Mr. Gilly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to kind of dovetail off what Mr. Russell said down there, we've got some big projects coming up. I want to make sure we publicly thank our Public Works Department for their help with. They're going to be a great asset to us, helping with some concrete and drainage works. They've been great to work with and always help us out. But those maintenance guys have done a great job this fall and winter getting things prepared, and appreciate all of them. Some updates otherwise, we're meeting tomorrow with NES to get a plan together to greatly improve the parking lot security lights at Memorial Park. It's going to be something that I think will be noticeable from the road. We talked about the cell tower earlier. We had about an hour-and-a-half conference call today. Basically what's happening now is there are 2 companies that are trying to negotiate to be in the park, and the language between attorneys and what funding who gets and how they get it is a big issue. Our biggest thing is, as a city, we want to come up with a template that we can use in any area of city-owned property. So that negotiating a contract has been the hang-up at this point, but it's moving forward, and we're way closer than we were a year ago on that. I also want to thank the Civitan Club is about to redo the concession stand at the main quad at Drakes Creek Park. I think that's about a $17,000 to $20,000 renovation that they're going to undertake that's going to make a dramatic difference in the main quad concession stand. We've had several clubs help us with projects other than Civitan. Tennessee United helped us with funding for lights that are going to be going in. Both soccer clubs helped us with the fertilizer. Multiple projects are done with civic clubs. I want to make sure that's when we get to the financials in January that people do, we'll make sure that we give everybody an update of not only what they've done, but what we have planned going forward with that. In the January 8th BOMA meeting, for the vacancy we have in Ward 5, Mr. Bubba Perry has been nominated by Alderman Hayes and Alderman Woodcock to fill that spot. He will get voted on in January one way or the other, so we'll hope to have a full board after the January 8th meeting. And also, it kind of came to our attention at the as a staff that the Parks Board meeting for January fell on Martin Luther King Day, and we wanted to see if you all might want to move that a week back to January 28th, the Monday after Martin Luther King Day. I can't do that, but if y'all want to, that
We're easy.
So we need a motion for that?
probably would need a motion for that, yes.
I'll make a motion, we move the date back.
Motion by Mr. Head, second by Mr. Frank. Discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Outstanding. Anything else, Mr. Gilly?
Then we're all right.
You look busy there.
Oh, we're good, thank you.
Is that it?
Yep.
All righty. Any questions, Mr. Gilly?
Oh, good.
All right, round table. Mr. Boat, we're going to start with you down there.
The round table just,
Whatever you want to say that ain't a cuss word.
well, it kind of limits what I was going to say. But,
All right.
Andy and
I'll
I,
define what a cuss word is, okay?
Andy and I talked a little bit about this. I don't know if this is appropriate time to kind of chat about this, and I don't have any real firm presentation, but I communicated with all the different sports organization, youth sports organizations, asking for their financials, just to kind of get a handle on what's going on from a financial standpoint. I'm a new alderman, relatively new alderman, certainly new to the Parks Board, but I'm not new to youth sports. Been around it for 25 plus years out here, statewide and whatnot. So, and there's been some issues that we've dealt with at the state level with various clubs and whatnot from a financial standpoint. So I guess I'd be interested in looking at maybe a little more frequent reporting of some sort relative to financial, and then having some sort of criteria, some sort of I'm not sure exactly what it would look like, but as an example, Tennessee United is a pretty large club. A lot of money goes through that. They're doing regular audits. So, it's good to inspect what you expect. So, and sometimes that's when issues happen. So, I'll talk to Andy a little bit and talk to a few others and you, of course, and see if we can come up with maybe some ideas relative to that. It's not uncomfortable for the clubs, but maybe that makes them more comfortable long-term also.
There you go. Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Boat. Mr. Head?
Welcome, Mr. Boat. And I have no comments, except let's play kickball.
You look good, though. You look good down there, though. I think. Mr. White? Mr. Frank?
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, everybody.
You too. Mr. Bennett?
I just want to thank the park staff for a great year. I coached in the spring and the fall, and we have one of the best park systems around. And thank you for your efforts and what you do. And Merry Christmas to everybody.
Thank you. Mr. Pike?
I just want to kind of second what he was saying right there. I think we have a great staff, whether it be inside, in the office, outside, and including the board, our board. We work as a big, huge team. Not a lot of people do that these days in the world. And I just wanted to commend everybody on this, on our whole staff, include everybody. And happy holidays to everybody and their families.
Thank you, man. I think I said it last meeting, but I'll say it again. I don't want to make y'all's head get, but if the people out there understood how much volunteer time and how much effort and how much care that these guys up here take, you would be surprised. I can tell you that. Some of these guys work long hours refereeing and umpiring, and all they get is fussed at. So I'm thanking all of you that do that. So that's a good thing. And I will say for the board down here, Merry Christmas to everybody, and I will accept a motion to adjourn. Mr. Heads first, Mr. Mr. Pike second. All in favor say aye. Aye. We're out of here.